Welcome to The Debate. Today we are dissecting the architecture of language acquisition. We're looking at a fundamental tension that really exists in every classroom, every language app. And that's the conflict between structural precision, getting the grammar exactly right, and conversational fluency, just the ability to flow. Our source material for this is from the instructional scripts of the English Upgrade podcast, hosted by Ryan and Mary.
And it is a fascinating data set. Ryan and Mary present a methodology that promises to help listeners speak with power. They offer this very specific promise that if you follow their protocols, you can move from broken, hesitant speech to being understood everywhere. But the question really is, at what cost?
Precisely. And that is the central question we have to get to today. Does the rigorous enforcement of grammar rules, specifically the English Upgrade modules on question formation and word order, does that truly empower learners to speak with authority? Or, as you might suggest, does this obsession with syntax actually induce the very freezing and hesitation that language learners are so desperate to avoid?
I think that's the perfect way to frame it. I've been looking through the transcripts, everything from daily routines to the episode explicitly called Stop Translating in Your Head, and I just see this distinct contradiction. I see a method that tells students to stop overthinking, while at the same time handing them a heavy cognitive load of rules to process in real time.
I see the tension you're pointing to, but I'm going to argue today that the English Upgrade approach is correct, that the mastery of syntax, specifically the formulas for WH questions and the helping verbs, it's not a burden. It's the necessary foundation for professional confidence. You really can't have freedom in a language without first submitting to its structure.
And I'll be taking the opposing view. While I absolutely acknowledge that the grammar rules Ryan and Mary teach are factually correct, I'll argue that their methodology's obsession with mistake number 1 and mistake number 2, it creates a fluency paradox. It stifles natural expression. You just can't tell a student to stop translating while giving them a complex algebraic formula they have to solve before they can ask for a cup of coffee.
All right, let's get into the weeds then. I want to start with this concept of structure as liberation. If you look at the source material, specifically that episode on question structures, Ryan and Mary are very clear. They state, word order matters. Now, this isn't just some pedantic rule. It's the key to being understood. They give the example of a learner saying, "You are going where?" versus the correct, "Where are you going?"
Right, the inversion of the subject and the verb.
Exactly. This shift from a statement to a question requires that structural inversion. My position is that without the rigid structure of, question word plus helping verb plus subject, the learner is just guessing. They're throwing words at a wall. The upgrade that the show promises is that shift from broken English, which, fine, it might get you a beer at a bar, but it won't get you a job, to the precise use of language. When Mary corrects "where you work" to "where do you work," she isn't just fixing grammar. She is handing the learner the keys to social legitimacy.
See, I'm sorry, but I think you're conflating accuracy with communication. Of course, "where do you work" is standard English. Nobody is disputing the textbook reality. But look at the psychological cost that's described in the source material itself. Mary admits in the intro that learners freeze or feel confused when asking questions. We have to ask, why do they freeze?
Because they lack the pattern.
No. I argue it's because they're frantically trying to calculate the rule you just praised. They're running a mental check. Okay, is the subject he, she, or it? If yes, use does. If I, you, we, they, use do. That calculation is the death of flow. That split-second calculation is the freeze. The methodology creates the very anxiety it claims to cure.
But that calculation is only temporary. It's a training wheel. You don't freeze forever. You freeze until the pattern becomes automatic. But let's look closer at the mechanics of question formation. Specifically, what I call the Ryan and Mary grammar protocols. The source material breaks this down algorithmically. You start with a statement, "You are tired." To make it a question, you must mechanically move the verb, "Are you tired?" It just removes ambiguity.
Well, that's the to be verb. That's the easy part. Most learners get that pretty quickly because it's a direct swap.
But it becomes critical with the auxiliary verbs, the hidden gears of English. "You like pizza" becomes "Do you like pizza?" This isn't just style. It is the operating system of the language. If you don't enforce this, you aren't speaking English, you're speaking a pidgin dialect. And here is the crucial insight from the source. Mistake number 1, forgetting do or does. Ryan highlights this because it is the most common marker of low proficiency. If you want the upgrade, you have to conquer this auxiliary.
But look at the did trap. This is where the method actually sets a snare for the learner. Ryan explicitly warns about mistake number 2, wrong past tense structure. He says, don't say where did you went. You have to say, where did you go?
Because did carries the tense. It's a logical rule. Did is already past. The main verb returns to the base. It's elegant logic.
It's logical to a linguist. To a learner in the middle of a conversation, it is a minefield. The source material forces them to focus on the base form after did. So now, instead of listening to your answer about your weekend, I'm stuck in my head checking if I accidentally used a past tense verb after my auxiliary. I am in a mode of error checking, not communication. The English upgrade promotes a fear of error, labeling things mistake number 1 and mistake number 2 that directly causes the hesitation.
But you're ignoring the social reality of language. Let's look at the polite questions segment of the source material. This is where your whole argument about communication over accuracy just falls apart. Ryan contrasts "give me your phone" with "could I use your phone?" Now tell me, is the difference there merely grammatical?
No, obviously there's a politeness marker. Give me is a command.
It is social survival. The upgrade is about social calibration. If a learner ignores the rule because they want flow, they end up sounding demanding or rude. The strict rule usage learning to swap give for could I allows the learner to sound professional. That is worth the cognitive load. You cannot flow your way out of sounding rude. When Ryan lists can, could, would as the tools for politeness, he's giving the learner a shield. Without that shield, the learner is vulnerable to being misunderstood as aggressive.
That's a compelling argument for modals like could. I'll grant you that. Modals do act as a social lubricant, but have you considered the daily routine formulas? This is where the robotic nature of the method really shows itself. You promote these structures as helpful, but I see them as stifling.
Stifling? Mary's formula for answering "how was your day" is a masterpiece of scaffolding. She gives them a 3-step process: feeling, plus 1 detail, plus small comment.
It's a script. It's painting by numbers. It denies the speaker the agency to just be honest.
It's a safety net. The source material explicitly identifies the problem, the conversation stopper. Someone asks, "How was your day?" and the learner says, "Good," and then silence ensues. That silence is failure. Mary's formula forces them to expand. "It was busy, I had 3 meetings, but they went well," comment. This turns a dead end into a bridge. It gives the learner a roadmap so they don't have to invent the conversation structure from scratch.
It turns a human being into a chatbot. This is exactly what I mean by the fluency paradox. Look at the 50 daily sentences module. They're teaching phrases like, "that makes sense," or "I totally understand," or "it was busy but productive." If a student relies on these scripts, are they actually connecting with you, or are they just retrieving response number 14 from their memory bank to avoid making a mistake?
Does it matter if the result is a smooth interaction? If I ask you how your day was and you give me a clear, structured answer that invites more questions, we are having a successful conversation. The mechanism doesn't invalidate the connection. In fact, I'd say the structure allows the connection to happen because the native speaker doesn't have to strain to understand you.
Yes, it matters, because real conversation is messy. Real conversation doesn't follow the time plus action formula Ryan proposes. In that role play about the weekend, Ryan says, "I visited my family. We went to the beach." It's clinically perfect. It's sterilized speech. It lacks the nuance and the messiness of a real interaction. By teaching students that correct equals perfect structure, we're setting them up to fail when they encounter the chaotic reality of actual native speech. If a learner expects everyone to speak in clear subject-verb-object sentences, they're going to be terrified when they walk into a real London pub.
I think you're romanticizing messiness. I call it clarity. The source material is designed for A to B1 learners. You cannot teach nuance before you teach the baseline. Ryan and Mary are providing the skeleton. The flesh and blood, that comes later. If you don't have the time plus action skeleton, in the afternoon I worked on a project, you just have a pile of this organized vocabulary. The English upgrade is providing the necessary constraints to make meaning possible. You can't break the rules effectively until you know them.
But at what cost? This leads us to the most significant contradiction in the source material, the stop translating philosophy.
I don't see a contradiction. The goal is the same.
Oh, it's glaring. There's a whole episode titled Stop Translating in Your Head. Ryan states, really quite beautifully, fluent speakers have an idea and they speak. He says the delay learners feel is translation happening in real time. Correct. That is the goal.
But then, in the very next breath of the series, they drilled the question word plus auxiliary plus subject formula. They are literally teaching a method that requires internal translation. You cannot apply the rule if he, she, it use does without an internal monitor checking your grammar. The method actively prevents the immediate speech Ryan advocates for by inserting a grammar check layer between the thought and the utterance. You're asking them to be intuitive, but giving them analytical tools.
You're viewing the learning process as a static state, not a progression. Ryan also says fluency is repetition. This is the muscle memory defense. I argue that you drill the specific structure, where do you work versus where work you, explicitly and yes, painfully at first, so that you can eventually stop translating.
So you have to translate to stop translating. That sounds circular. You have to automate to stop translating. Think about learning to drive a manual car. At first, you are painfully aware of the clutch, the gear stick, the RPMs. You are translating your desire to move into mechanical actions. You think clutch in, shift up, clutch out. But eventually, you just drive. You don't think about the clutch anymore. The strictness now creates the freedom leader. When Mary says correct questions make you confident, she's hitting on a psychological truth. Confidence doesn't come from just speaking and hoping you're understood. Confidence comes from competence. It comes from knowing for a fact that you didn't make a basic error with do or does.
I come at it from a different angle. I think confidence comes from connection. If I say, where you go yesterday, which is grammatically incorrect, it's a mistake number 2. You still understand me. We can still have a moment. But if I stand there silently for 5 seconds while I calculate, where did you go? Because I'm terrified of committing the error Ryan warned me about, the connection is broken. The English upgrade prioritizes the code over the connection.
But the motto is be understood everywhere, not just by sympathetic friends who tolerate broken grammar. Everywhere implies a standard. Everywhere implies that if you walk into a boardroom or a bank, your request is clear. Broken grammar limits your world. The syntax opens it. If you want to speak with power, as the show claims, you cannot rely on the charity of the listener. You must command the language.
And yet, look at the advice they give in the Stop Translating episode. They suggest narrating your day. I am making coffee. I am checking emails. This is simple, direct association between action and word. This is the method I prefer. This works. But it works because it bypasses the complex rules about auxiliary verbs and question inversion. It works because it is immediate. It connects the sensory experience of coffee to the word coffee without filtering it through a grammar textbook.
It works for simple assertions. I am making coffee is subject, verb, object. But as soon that you need to ask why are you making coffee instead of tea, you need the structure. You cannot escape the architecture of the language. You can narrate your own life simply, but to interact with others, you need the question word plus auxiliary protocol.
But you can acquire it differently. You can acquire it through exposure, not through the don't say X, say Y correction method that Ryan and Mary rely on so heavily.
Exposure takes years. Ryan and Mary are offering an upgrade, a shortcut through analysis. By explicitly pointing out mistake number 1, forgetting do or does, they are saving the learner from fossilizing that error. And fossilization is the enemy of the advanced learner. Once you get used to saying where you work, it is incredibly hard to fix. Ryan is intervening before the cement dries.
Or they're fossilizing the anxiety about that error. They're making the learner hyper-aware of their own speech, which leads to the monitor effect, where you're so busy monitoring your speech for errors that you lose the thread of what you even wanted to say.
Let's look at the 50 daily sentences again. You called it mimicry, I call it an arsenal. When a learner has, "I'll be there in 5 minutes," or "Can we reschedule the meeting?" locked and loaded, they don't have to translate. That is stopping translation. They are retrieving a block of sound. This is what linguists call chunking.
That is a fair point. If they memorize the whole chunk, they bypass the grammar calculation. If "can we reschedule" is treated as one long word, it works. But the moment they have to modify that chunk to say, "Can she reschedule the meeting?" they're thrown right back into the algorithm. Wait, is it "can she?" "Do she?" "Does she?" And the freeze happens all over again.
But can is a modal verb, so it doesn't change. That's the beauty of the system.
And the learner has to remember that rule too. Modals don't take S. The list of rules just grows and grows. The cognitive load becomes unbearable. Do takes S for third person, modals do not take S, did resets the verb to the base form. It is a maze.
It is only unbearable if you resist it. If you embrace the structure, as the English Upgrade suggests, the rules become tools, not burdens. You aren't lost in a maze, you're looking at a map. And Ryan and Mary are handing out the map.
I think we're reaching the core of the disagreement here. You view the rules as the skeleton that holds the body up. I view the rules, at least the way they are explicitly taught here, as a cage that keeps the bird from flying.
And I would argue that a bird without a skeleton isn't flying anywhere. It's a puddle on the ground.
Fair enough. But let's look at that weekend scenario one last time. You see perfection in "we went to the beach." I see a missed opportunity for real storytelling. If the learner is so focused on subject plus went plus place, they might miss the chance to say, "The beach was wow."
But "the beach was wow" is not B1 English, it's gesture. "We went to the beach" is a sentence. We are teaching a language, not vibes. You cannot run a business meeting on vibes.
But vibes, as you dismissively call them, are often how we actually communicate feeling.
Which brings us right back to Mary's formula: feeling plus detail plus comment. She literally institutionalizes the vibe into the grammar. She mandates the feeling. She ensures the learner expresses it. It's the perfect synthesis. She doesn't just say, "Tell me facts." She says, "Tell me the feeling." That structure forces the humanity into the sentence.
It is a synthesis. I'll grant you that. But is it natural? I remain skeptical.
We have dissected the mechanics of questions, the formulas for daily routines, and the philosophy of translation. I think it is time to draw this to a close.
As I reflect on the English Upgrade material, particularly the advice to narrate your day and think in English, I find myself concluding that the true upgrade is hidden in the margins. While Ryan and Mary's grammar rules are undeniable, you can't argue with standard English, I believe the real value comes from the segments where they encourage simple thinking. When they say "think small" or "don't build complex thoughts," that is the path to fluency. The upgrade happens when you stop worrying about mistake number 2 and start simply naming the world around you.
I see the appeal of simplicity, but I must respectfully disagree with your conclusion. To speak with power, which is the show's motto, requires precision. You cannot have power if you are unintelligible. The structures provided, the WH questions, the polite requests with could, the strict past tense rules, they are the essential scaffolding that holds the language together. Without the clear structure promised by Ryan and Mary, there is no upgrade, only broken communication. Confidence, true professional confidence, is born from the knowledge that your sentence is built correctly.
And perhaps the truth lies somewhere in that tension. You need the rules to build the car, but you need to forget them to drive it.
A poetic image. Whether one favors the strict rules or the flow state, I think we agree the goal remains the same: be understood everywhere.
Indeed. Thank you for listening to The Debate.
Join us next time.